right. Hello. Great day. Good evening. Whether you're watching this live or in the replay, thank you so much for joining me. We will be joined by life coach J Michael Sherman in just a few moments. And I do have okay, Coach Sherman is here. I do have let me, if you haven't invited your single friends yet, we had several join since back.
Hey,
Hello, hello. There's my sister. Hello, Nat. If you haven't invited your single friends, definitely go ahead and do so now. And I will introduce Coach Sherman. I'll read my quote first as we give a few more minutes for people to come on. So the quote I found about dating, and we do have a special gift that we'll be giving out once we finish the next couple of sessions. The quote is by Henry Cloud. Dating is about finding out who you are and who others are. If you show up in a masquerade outfit, neither is going to happen. So
that's beautiful.
definitely, yeah, I thought that was very interesting because many times, we come in one way and then we think that the relationship is going to sustain itself when we really haven't shown our true self. So let me introduce Coach Sherman before he gets started. J Michael Sherman is a life coach, actually a spiritual coach as well. He does coaching on different levels. And he is married to the beautiful Aisha, our AS Best on Facebook, Aisha Sherman. They have 4 wonderful children. He does some counseling through his Sherman Consultancy and Coaching business. He does marriage and spiritual counseling, and he is the senior pastor of the Covenant Family Church here in Augusta, Georgia. He is also a motivational speaker, so definitely if you are not following him on Facebook, you can go ahead and
Thank
follow
you.
him. He has posted several things in the group. I think a few things he posted this week scared some people, so we didn't get a lot of responses, and some of them were pretty interesting. But we're going to talk about multiple dating this evening. So if you have questions or comments, even if you don't want to ask them openly in the broadcast, go ahead and you can inbox me or Coach Sherman if you're following him, and that way you can
That's
get
fine.
those answers. So let's get started. Multiple dating, what does that mean?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's so good to be here today. Um, you know, I think it's best to tie this conversation of multiple dating into the quote. It was kind of interesting that the quote spoke to dating being about knowing yourself and coming down to knowing yourself. And when I have the conversation of multiple dating, it's really towards that end and for that purpose. It's not to assume that someone doesn't know themselves, so they need to start searching themselves out by getting with multiple people. But what happens is that in the process of getting to know other people, you learn so much about yourself. And there's really only one time in your life that is kind of okay to date in this way or to get to know people in this way, and that's when you're single. Now, it's not for everybody, but I certainly encourage it where people are still trying to identify, in particular, those things that they really are looking for that's going to make for a long-term relationship, and they feel a little discouraged, feeling like they're not finding it in a very static, I'm dating this person a year, I'm dating this person 2 years. And I often question why they date people so long that they're unsatisfied with. And I think it's because we get stuck with a traditional model, a traditional understanding, and we
Right.
don't even realize we're on this beaten path going nowhere. So I encourage people to break the traditional path, break with the traditional mold, and to consider, especially if you're not in a committed relationship with anyone, the idea, the benefits of dating multiple people in the general vicinity of time. Maybe this isn't 2 or 3 people in the same night. That might be a bit much. But maybe the idea is that you don't anchor yourself down in such a, you know, weighted situation that you don't have the latitude and the liberty to get to know other people at the same time.
So let's touch bases on the multiple dating in one night because there are a lot of articles on that and a lot of
Well, oh well.
a lot of information on how to schedule that without overlapping. So do you recommend that?
Listen, you know, the idea is that it's going to be different strokes for different folks. And some people have the type of personality, they're much more of a extrovert in this regard, and they can handle that type of, uh, of energy exchange. People like me say, I would have a challenge. I'm pretty well, you know, down to needing to exchange my energy in one direction or with one person. But I know myself pretty well. So I think that's going to be a personality thing, you know. How are you? Some people really can handle that. They're just, you know, that's their mission tonight. They're going to get to know is five people, and they're not stopping until they get to know five people tonight. And I think that this is cool. What we have things like speed dating options, and in
Right,
those instances, I think you certainly get to date maybe five, maybe 10 people in one night, and it has a very specific purpose and meaning. And culturally, I don't know if this sticks for a lot of us, but that's a worthy idea. Who knows how many people you can date in one night? And let's caveat this, because when we're talking about dating, we are talking about sitting, getting to know people, whatever that fun or social exchange may be. A lot of people assume that dating multiple people means sleeping with multiple people. I think your
right.
personal values need to be intact in a way where, you know, you know what you need to do. Everybody's adults in here.
Right, definitely. And it's not necessarily about sex. Like you said, it's about finding out who you are and really gauging what type of relationship that you're wanting to be in. And
Because
many
a lot of
people,
us don't know. We don't know.
right, right. And not sure about what type of person you want to date. So having the variety, there are pros and cons as far as doing the multiple dating. And definitely knowing what your motives are behind it. Because if it's just about experiencing different people and learning yourself, that's one thing. But if you're doing it and you're not open about doing it, right, Dorothy, values are definitely important. If you're not doing it and being honest, you know, the speed dating, everybody knows what's going on because you can
That's
see
exactly
everybody.
right.
But, you know, if you're dating multiples and someone thinks that they're in an exclusive relationship, then it'll
That
create
can
a
be very
problem.
hurtful. That's right.
Right, right.
That's right.
So, what are some tips or highlights that you would want us to keep in mind as a life coach?
I would like to encourage
And
if we keep dating lighthearted and fun, and on the basis of meeting quality people and having quality exchanges, you have a better opportunity of seeing if there could be something long term. Much to the point earlier, let's be honest about what we're really doing. You can't have a relationship. You can't relate with anybody that you're not going to be honest with or open with. And I think last week we got into the conversation of vulnerability, and that's a little bit of a heavy topic. You don't have to be oh so vulnerable right out the gate, but maybe being a little bit transparent about where you are, being comfortable about where you are, because people will try and talk you out of it. Say there was a big difference between you as a lady in our traditional society talking about multiple dating and me as a man in our traditional society talking about multiple dating. If you are a lady who is espousing this idea of being bold about your life and saying, look, I'm not going to settle and I'm not going to let anybody tell me what I should or should not do, you may have to really make peace with the fact that there are going to be a lot of people who will accuse you of being all kinds of things. And you will have to educate them by your standard, educate them with your poise and your grace. And this is a journey. But, you know, we live in a society where everybody wants to label you and call you something. And this keeps a lot of us boxed in a way that we don't experience the greater joys that are available for us in our lives. And yes, it affects our dating, it affects where we work, it affects where we live, because we're so uptight about what everybody's going to think about us. So I would say, you know, again, tip number one, being very honest with yourself, being able to articulate that honesty to other people goes a long way. Number two, being comfortable and confident in your journey, where you are at this point in time in your life, male or female, being comfortable and confident enough to educate the ignorant when they decide they want to tell you who you are and what you should and should not do, because everybody's going to have an opinion.
right, definitely. So knowing yourself definitely sounds like it's a key component to any dating, but definitely multiple dating, so that you won't get lost in what's going on. And if you're the type of person that is more of a traditional dater, that the multiple dating definitely may not work for you, especially if you are not able to keep up with who you're dating and when you're dating that person.
Yeah, again, you know, I think it's very interesting because there are people who, instead of approaching this conversation like we are, would choose to participate in multiple dating through lies, and we just call that cheating. And the idea is that I think it's important that we raise the conversation among our people. Some of the same people who would be very critical of this idea of being open and honest and dating multiple people are the same people who will slip into the crevices of cheating on their significant other because they don't want to be honest about where they are and what they need. This is not easy for anybody, but I certainly suggest that we consider it if you know you're one of those people where it seems like relationships are not working the best for you. You get bored with people. You thought you knew them. You really didn't know them. You know, this might be worthwhile to consider.
So, that is a big thing, and definitely something that if you don't realize that's the issue, it can become a hindrance in every relationship. Getting bored with the relationship or the person, and not knowing how to actually make that work to your advantage instead of just dropping the relationship and moving on. So, what are some good tips um, that you would coach someone as far as getting bored in a relationship? And it's just dating. We're not taking people any further than dating tonight. So we're just talking about dating.
Okay. Whenever we talk about boring, okay, this is a doozy for us. But it's very easy to, get bored with people and to assume that it's something missing or lacking in the other person. And I think that there's so much latitude and room for us to be creative with ourselves. So the first point is to people who get bored easy is to make sure that you're stretching yourself. Make sure that you're, absorbing worthy reads, that you're spending some time on a very personal level with your development so that you're always bringing something of value to the table. And I always like to start with self before we get critical and talking about what other people will or will not do, what they are not interested in. Being a little bit more pronounced about your own interests usually goes a long way. But secondly, not being afraid to talk about the boredom is a big deal. To talk about the plateauing of the relationship, that it's not as exciting or as enthusiastic for you as it once was. Now, everybody's going to go through this. If you've been dating somebody for a while, if you have been spending so much time with said person, you're going to get a little bit more familiar with that person. They're not going to be as exciting. But I would like to think boredom comes down to like a flatlining in the relationship where it's just what did BB King say forever ago, like the thrill is gone. And if you're at that point in dating where the thrill is gone, you probably, if it's a dating situation and you're already flatlined, the thrill is gone, you know, multiple dating might be for you. That's the only thing I can say. Because you say we want to keep them at dating. And I don't like giving a whole lot of relationship counsel to dating situations because so much of it should be a little bit organic, where there's a flame and at least get you through a honeymoon period before you start questioning all these things. So I'll stop right there for now. Definitely putting yourself in a position where you can communicate about the boredom, where you could talk about your expectations, goes a long way if you have a willing partner. But, in a dating situation, I just don't see this being a lot of conversation. That's why we're dating. You're kind of dating to know if there's enough in this to make a relationship with. And if I'm bored with you, I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know.
So definitely, it's a good way to be able to move on, though. Honestly,
Yes. And to do it in honesty, I mean, sometimes it's just not there. And what do you do if the connection is not there? Do you try and manufacture it? I mean, you're dating. Do you try and manufacture it during that dating period? I think that it's something that you should be able to feel, and that's the point of being able to date.
so definitely, if you are just joining us, and I have to go back through the comments here. We are being basically coached by life coach J Michael Sherman, and he is giving some great points on multiple dating, definitely giving a different perspective than what we are used to with multiple dating, because he made the point about it um, being related to cheating. So if you're not honest about it, I guess it could seem that way, but it's a great way if you are just open to finding out the type of person you like and what you're looking for, and not getting stuck, because there a lot of times you're dating one person and you get into the mindset of going beyond dating and immediately thinking of marriage, and we touched on that last week. And not just females, males do it as well. So having the options to see different people, and just kind of get a feel for what you like, and as well as a variety, because everyone will have something different for the dates that they'll want to go out on, and that will definitely keep variety if you're someone that may not necessarily want to be in a serious relationship, that's a great way to go as well.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
So, okay, so Michael made a lot of comments. So he was saying that he is open to compromise. He's not necessarily into multiple dating, which it's not for everyone, and you definitely have to know whether it's something that'll work for you or not. But being open, and we can talk about that on every session, being open to moving forward and definitely being open to find out what type of dater you are. You know, are you the type
Okay.
of person that on the first date you need to go out for coffee or maybe lunch? You want to do something quick because you're not going to be able to sit through an entire um, meal and, you know, do some chit chatting. And, you know, you have to know what type of person you are. And so that way you can kind of identify what type of date you're looking to do.
I mean, let's face it, dating brings a lot of anxiety with it. You know, it's like the fear of being judged or if somebody's going to like you or not, being rejected. That could be very heavy on some people. So in order to date, period, you have to bring yourself to a point where you've given yourself certain approvals, you know, and you don't need people's approval. And it does become a little bit easier in that regard to be able to give yourself the approval you need makes it a lot easier for sure. Again, you talked about people knowing what kind of data they are. That's important. But I find that it's more of the social restraints that keeps us from being even what we know ourselves to be, because we don't like the anxiety that comes along with a lot of this. It does take a little bit to get to know people, and if you compound that by talking about getting to know multiple people, that can be very overwhelming for some people.
Right. Definitely could be overwhelming. And let's see, Michael said the reason I push away from multiple dating is that they catch feelings so quick.
Okay, now that could be a matter of how we framing it. You see, you talked about earlier, and I don't know Michael's exact situation, so Michael, don't let me school you on something that you need to be schooling me on. But you know, sometimes it's the way we set the situations up. For instance, I was a person who was a serial monogamous type of person, and I took relationships very serious early on. I feel like all of my first girlfriends was gonna be my wife. Oh my goodness, I was that guy. I was very emotional, so I set the situations up in a way where they were going to catch feelings. And it took my mother to tell me one day, like I'm venting to her about how these girls are getting on my nerve, and she's like, "Son, you created that monster. You're the one who came in like you was going to be a knight in shining armor, like you wanted to rescue her from the world. And now that she's giving you this much energy and this much attention and she's caught feelings, what did you think she was going to do?" So my mother schooled me on being a little bit more honest with myself, a little bit more transparent, breaking away from some of the social pressure as a man to try and be a nice guy. That was setting me up for people catching feelings. I couldn't just be honest about the fact that, hey, right now, at this point in my life, I don't want to be married. I just want to be able to get to know people. I'm still getting to know myself. That could have never fallen off my tongue as a younger man. I just didn't have the confidence, and I had been socially conditioned to approach relationships and to approach women with this certain mask on, like the gentleman
Right.
talked about earlier. And the mask ultimately was that, you know, I want to make a marriage with you. And it was a very interesting position to be in. It wasn't until much later that my theory came along these lines, and I realized that there was great benefits for me personally to open up a little bit, to, you know, entertain multiple conversations and be honest about that with people. And I found people gave with that honesty. Girls didn't catch feelings as quick when I was a little bit more honest. They knew exactly what to do with their feelings. I caught feelings, thought thinking I was being honest and go keep them in a certain position, and I got messed up. This was very interesting.
Right. So yeah, and we a lot of times it's put more on the females than the males, but you have a lot of women that know what they want, and a lot of women don't want to be in a
Look, we'll
marriage.
have to have another show about emotional men, because I'm telling you right now, you fool around and catch one of us, and we thought we was gonna be in a serious, committed relationship with you, and you told us you dating another guy. Man, y'all ain't seen emotional yet.
Oh Lord, oh Lord, that's gonna be one of those. If he starts crying, comments we'll need to deal with. Huh?
That's right. Oh yes.
So definitely want to touch a little bit on not necessarily having to get married because socially, and we talked about it last week. I gave the statistic of I think it is 42% of adults over the age of 18 in the USA are single. So a lot, especially the current generation, they're not getting married as early as previous generations. So definitely want to touch bases on that because there's almost a stigma if you're a certain age and you're not married, you don't have children. People think there's something wrong with you, and I thought the same thing because a lot of times you have a lot of older men that may not have children, they may have never been married, so it always puts a question mark there. You know, why are you not in a relationship? So definitely want to touch bases on that.
You know, marriage is a beautiful institution, and it's something that if two people agree that they want to be married, it really can work. There's a lot of tools and resources available to us now. I mean, more than ever, to help marriages, to help people get on the right track. But it's not that there's a shortage of the information available, it's that we have the wrong ideas about what marriage is really supposed to look like. And I think it's because of the way we approach dating, you know. And if we gave ourselves a little bit more latitude and room in a dating process to know ourselves and know other people, I think we probably could land more solid marriages. But that type of pressure right there, that we need to be married by a certain age, that you know you need to have a certain traditional model, often forces us into marriages we're not ready for, we don't want. And there's a lot of failure in marriages. So I read an article not long ago that talked about how that, at least among millennials, and this is citing people born between 1981 and 1996, that marriage is a failing institution, a collapsing institution. This is very, very interesting. The idea is that people are losing faith in marriage, and they're thinking that marriage doesn't have the benefits that it once had. Marriage for us has always been a spiritual conversation. It not only becomes the foundation of a strong family, but for us in the Christian community, it's also been the foundation of a strong church and a strong community, consequently. So we've always adhered to and pushed the idea of godly marriages. But I think that was the caveat. A godly marriage makes for a marriage that has a lot more foundation and stability and genuine love to it, as opposed to manipulation and tactics that we see now, like in the Hollywood marriages where we're marrying you for benefits. Everybody's trying to get a leg up. And the term is hyper gaming among women, but I think men hyper game too. As soon as we see somebody that can give some benefits, we want to exchange and get to the next level. And this self-centered approach to love keeps us exchanging people because we're trying to manipulate all ends against the middle. I don't think that's what marriage was ever supposed to be about. I think marriage was supposed to be about two people who were committed to building something together, to longevity. And we could get back to that place, but it's taking a lot of self-work. Everybody's been talking about how self-work and inner work is the new sexy. I saw somebody say that about men. Didn't you put that up? That
I
men who are
did, I
doing.
did. Yes.
So this is the thing that it's taken for us to really invest in our self-work. And I think we'll notice that our marriages can really stick on. They can last. They can last. And you can avoid that pressure of doing it because it's time.
Right, and it definitely makes a big difference as far as knowing why you're getting married because like we touch bases on you talked about celebrity marriages. A lot of them are more so business transactions than anything, and it plays a large role into who they are and who they're trying to become, like we touch bases on. But if you are not a celebrity and you're not trying to be a reality star, then definitely you have to know what your goal is as far as marriage is concerned. And I think a lot of the love piece is missing. So that's where the multiple dating is coming into. That's where not getting married so early is coming into. Because
Yes.
if you think about it, the previous generation, you know, the divorce rate has gotten so high that it doesn't look like something most people want to be involved in. But marriage
Yes.
definitely still is something, if that is what you're looking to do, is something that you should work towards. But you definitely have to have in your mind what you're looking to do and why you're getting married
Yes.
and who
The
you're
scenery
marrying.
has Yes, the scenery has changed. So, you know, from our parents' generation to now, just with the idea of internet dating and so on now, there's so much more available. I mean, there's been articles published about how this has affected marriages and so on. You know, ideally, people have more access to the world than they've ever had before. But I think it also brings a lot of questions to people. People are having an opportunity to learn things about themselves more rapidly. We're having this conversation, like you pointed out, because we want to avoid some of the failed marriages that we're seeing. You know, no pastor, no counselor, no social clinician likes the idea of of trying to, work with two hurt individuals
Right.
that have also perhaps hurt children in the process because the marriage didn't work. It's a very tough position to be in. So of course, if we can throw more at the beginning to prevent it, we want to. And if that means slowing down just a little bit to know yourself a little bit more, to make sure that you're not making these decisions out of social pressure. Man, God forbid we're still marrying people because somebody told us in our family you should be married by now. What if this is a whole fool? Are you supposed to marry this whole fool because it's time to be married? God forbid we have any more marriages like that.
So definitely the self-care, personal growth, and that's why I posted that, because um, many people, and it always, a lot of things are so one-sided when it comes to relationships. Many times people think that personal growth is more so that something that women do versus men. But if you're looking for a mature, well-educated man, then definitely he's going to be into personal growth and finding out who he is. And you definitely want to be in a relationship, like you said, you want to be in a relationship with two whole people, not two hurt people. And then you're trying to work backwards, basically trying to fix the two individuals so that the relationship will work, instead of making sure that the two whole people come together initially so that the work
Hmm.
relationship will be productive. So there are a lot of things that need to be done even before or while you're dating. So I guess if you're multiple dating and you're still working on yourself, is definitely what we should always be working on ourselves. But
Yeah.
working on yourself after a long-term relationship, and I know someone touched bases on that last week. So that would probably be a good way to kind of get out of the mode of being in that long-term relationship, definitely dating multiple people.
Yeah, I mean, so an ideal concept might be because I think some of the natural questions would be if I'm multiply dating, what are you supposed to do? Just be dating people forever type of thing? No. The idea is that you may begin, say you're fresh onto the market, you ain't been dating it forever type of thing. Maybe you've been married 20 years, you've gotten divorced, and you've been single 5 years, and you just fresh back out there. The idea maybe it's very scary, it's very intimidating, but you stand a better chance of allowing yourself to get to know a few people at one time and then determining from that who you would like to invest more time into type of thing. So this idea of multiple dating is not a complete deterrent from the traditional model. It's more or less just giving you an opportunity to slow that traditional model down a little bit to make sure that before you get to the traditional model, you have the type of person that you would like to have. So I know there are a lot of social restraints depending on where you're from, what your background is with this whole concept of multiple dating. But we're not encouraging people to be promiscuous. We're not encouraging people to have no values or to have no standards. We're encouraging people to try it a different way. So before I determine I'm going to be serious with this one person, maybe I'll, make sure that this is the one person I want to be with type of thing. And regardless of what people's opinions are about it, if you've brought yourself to a comfortable place with it, I think you'll see the benefits of it. I think you'll be able to see that you are in control a little bit more of your decision making as opposed to answering to that social pressure to do it a certain way. So I just want to throw that out there because I think some people are like, well, if I'm multiple dating, how long am I supposed to be multiple dating? How does this bring me closer to marriage? I certainly can't marry multiple people. Yes, I'm glad you're looking at it that way. You're not going to marry multiple people. You don't want to keep multiple situations going on in your marriage. But the idea is maybe to start knowing multiple people and thereby knowing yourself a little bit more. And then you'll narrow that down to maybe one person that you feel like you really enjoy, the two of you are really vibing with. And then from there, maybe you guys will continue much more along that traditional path. And that's just a suggestion. That's a projection. That doesn't mean it has to be that way. But I just wanted to clarify it.
Oh, I'm glad you clarified that, because definitely if you go into a committed relationship and you're still multiple dating, there's something wrong.
Again, people might
Definitely.
look at that as cheating.
Right, right. So we definitely want to clarify that. And there are many pros and cons. And when I did a little research, it's amazing how it's separated between the men and the women. I didn't find a lot of articles that were unisex. So it
Inclusive,
gave
yeah.
tips on what women should do versus what men should do. And you touched on some of them. So knowing, whether if you start dating multiple people, you're able to, like you said, look for the one and then kind of break away from the multiple dating if it's agreed upon that you all will exclusively see each other. But
Hmm.
if you're doing it long term, then it definitely becomes something other than just multiple dating. So
Yes.
these were some great points. If you all have any questions, definitely put them in the comments, either live or in the replay, so they can be answered. And were there any closing tips or insights that you wanted to give?
I wanted to revisit something for sure in the closing, and that is back to the beginning. This whole conversation is about knowing yourself and coming to know more of yourself through knowing other people. And I think that that journey is so important during the single phase of life, so to speak, before we pair with other people for the long haul. Again, I think it's important to note that when we talk about marriage, most of us are talking about building a future together. That's very difficult to do with people who are very broken and still trying to heal and recover when they come to marriage. So we talked about wanting two whole people that are coming together. And I think there's so much room during our single period to know ourselves, to discover ourselves. And if multiple dating is one of the avenues by which you can do that, why not doing this period of your life? Again, I want to stress this is one of the only times in your life where it's acceptable on multiple levels for you to be that adventurous, to get to know multiple people at one time, to not be obligated to anybody. You used the term exclusive earlier, to reserve the right, to be exclusive with who you want to be exclusive with. It's an empowering journey, and a lot of us could certainly do well to take that journey, to be empowered along those lines. And I just want to say happy dating, happy knowing yourself, and make sure that you utilize support systems, utilize relationship coaches, read articles. There's so much information out there that can help us expand as people. And again, I think that that's what this conversation is really about. It's about personal growth. It's about expansion. It's about knowing yourself. Go on, know yourself while you're single, so you have something of value to bring to the table in a marriage, man. Please come to the marriage ready to work. Please come to the marriage ready to build. Please come to the marriage ready to join forces with somebody because you know what you bring to the table. That's a power marriage.
Oh, yes, definitely. So we definitely appreciate all of the insight that you have shared with us this evening. And how can they get in touch with you?
The best way to get in touch with me is to email me. I respond very quickly to email, and you can use my personal email because it directs all of my business emails, and that is jordansherman@icloud.com. It is an effective way to get in touch with me, and you can just put in the subject matter, whatever it is that you're referencing, and I'll follow back up with you as soon as possible.
All right, so we definitely appreciate you. So we've completed our 2 sessions for this month, and we will pick up with 2 more sessions in June, starting on June 13th, and we'll do a session 2 Thursdays in June. So definitely, if you have or see a great single dating or anything that is related to being single, see anything that you'd like to share here in the group on with Mingo, definitely go ahead and post that, as well as don't forget to invite your single friends so that they can take part in the information you're getting, because it is a private group. So if you're sharing, it's only going to be seen by the friends that are a part of the group. So again, thank you.
What do I do to get my friends to come in?
Just click on the invite at the top. If it's on the mobile devices, right under the banner picture, and you can
Hmm.
invite your friends. It'll bring up the friend list. And you can just click on the names, and then it'll invite them. And as an admin, then
Okay.
you can approve them.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. It's always exciting to be here. I look forward to future conversations and to hearing, what other people are saying and thinking. Certainly, I don't talk about these things like an expert on the matter. I just know that there's a lot to contribute to the conversation. And as a counselor at this point and by this point in the game, I know that we can afford to do something different in dating because the marriage disaster we got to address. And all it's coming down to, as near as I can tell, is people having a little bit more time to know themselves. And there's a lot of room for that. So happy dating, happy knowing yourself.
Right, right. So we definitely appreciate you, and we will see you again in 2 weeks on June 13th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Everyone have a great weekend. Be safe. And as always, remember, self-love is your superpower. I love you. Enjoy your week. Thank you.